We got some very important news about The Brave and the Bold, the Batman movie set in James Gunn's DCU, and I want to talk about it because I've seen a lot of people expressing a lot of opinions, and I think on one hand, a lot of us comic book fans, Batman fans, Spider-Man fans, whatever, we do get worried when there's a new take on the character, that the people in charge just don't get it, right? And I think we, the fans of Batman, the fans of these movies, are, in some senses, like, somewhat justified in being worried about an adaptation of Batman, especially coming after the Snyderverse Batman who killed everybody from Batman v Superman. Like, I understand why anybody coming on that doesn't have the most spotless record ever, you're gonna be a little bit concerned. But on the other hand, what people are saying about the writer of Batman Brave and the Bold, that was just announced, Christina Hodson, I don't think that really holds up to scrutiny, and I wanted to give my take on that. I wanted to state my piece. Now, for people that don't know, The Brave and the Bold was one of the original projects announced by James Gunn. It's going to be part of the new DCU. The Brave and the Bold is the name of a comic series starring Batman. We don't know very much about this movie. We don't know who's playing Batman. It probably isn't Robert Pattinson, although it's not too late to bring him over after the Batman Part 2. I think it's worth doing. I think having two Batmen might be a mistake, but that's not the point. We know that there's going to be Batman. We know that Damian Wayne, or at least it seems like Damian Wayne is going to play a role here, but like, that's it. We don't have any other information about characters or story or anything like that. So we do know and have known for a while that Andy Muschietti, the director of The Flash, is going to direct The Brave and the Bold. In fact, we learned this the day before The Flash released. And listen, that movie did not get great reviews, and it also was a big flop. But James Gunn and the people at Warner Brothers had seen The Flash, they liked it, so clearly, regardless of whether this movie hit or not, James Gunn had faith in Andy Muschietti. And like, I think James Gunn knew, like a lot of us knew, The Flash was not going to be a big hit that was going to make all of the budget back. Like, there was just too much weird stuff going into that movie besides obviously the bad will brought on by a certain star. There was just a lack of interest in that old DCEU. That portrayal of the Flash was just kind of strange. Didn't really feel like Barry Allen. People were not fully over the multiverse, but this is where people were starting to get tired of it. And then you had a lot of the publicity coming out about the cameos from the dead actors that they put in the end. Like, that was like one of the main stories I heard about The Flash around its time of release, was like, oh, they brought this person back, and is that ethical or not? So like, all that together, even if The Flash was the greatest movie ever made, I think it was kind of destined to bomb. But anyway, so James Gunn likes what Andy Muschietti's doing, hires Andy Muschietti to direct Brave and the Bold. By the way, we don't know when this movie is coming out. I'm not expecting it to film very soon, so it's unlikely it comes out this year or next year, 2027. Maybe late 2027 if they really like nail this script down really quickly. But I have a feeling because of the new DCU's release schedule, 2027 is Man of Tomorrow and maybe some other things. Then 2028, maybe that's Brave and the Bold. Like, that feels reasonable. But anyway, so Andy Muschietti's the director. We just found out today that Christina Hodson, the screenwriter for The Flash, is going to be writing The Brave and the Bold. Now, the discourse on this is kind of tricky. I would say there's like two groups of people in the same argument. One of them is the grifters and the jabronis who are out there to say like, this is bad and it's woke. And like, a lot of that is the fact that this is a woman who's writing this movie, right? However, there are a lot of other people, and I'll give the benefit of the doubt to them, who have been posting like scenes from The Flash and going, this person? Why are we hiring this person to write a Batman movie? Batman is so important. Like, why are we not getting someone who wrote an amazing movie? Even if you don't think that any issues with The Flash are on them, because, and I think we'll talk about this, I think there's a good argument for a lot of people worked on The Flash, and it's hard to ascribe any specific choice or specific line to one person. But even that, it's not necessarily like they want to run this person out of the business. They're just saying like, how are they getting this next even higher profile job? And I just want to give my opinion on it, because I think when you break down Christina Hodson's actual career and go like case by case, I am encouraged that she's working on The Brave and the Bold. And my first kind of argument for this comes when you look at The Flash, right? The Flash is the highest profile bomb in the entire new DCU. It cost a lot of money. People didn't really like it. Like I said, there were a lot of reasons people didn't like it. I didn't even mention the special effects didn't look very good a lot of the time. Sometimes they looked quite good, but other times it just looked weird. And there were a lot of other people who were just like, I don't want to do a time travel story with Flash now. I just want to do a regular kind of street level Flash story. Same problem a lot of people have with Spider-Man is we started too big. It would have been nice maybe for a movie with just the rogues and Flash battling the rogues. Like, that could have been cool. But either way, people had a lot of problems with this movie. This was a movie that clearly, like, if you're paying attention, there were a lot of people with a lot of hands in it. Yes, Christina Hodson is the only person with a screenplay by credit for The Flash, but she's not the only person with a writing credit, because in fact, 3 other people have screen story credits. The first one is a man named Joby Harold, who I had not heard of before. He was responsible for such hits as King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword, Army of the Dead, Transformers Rise of the Beast, which, to be fair, one of the better live-action Transformers movies. Not the best, but like, I think it's better than average. And the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So this person wrote the story for this movie. They have a screen story by credit, which means they gave the outline, they had the big ideas, they had the characters, they had like where the fight scenes would take place and how they would go, all that. It's unclear like where they drew the line or where they said, all right, handed it off to Christina, where you're like, you're putting together the screenplay for this, which means you're formatting it, you're coming up with dialogue, transitions, like you're taking this outline and turning it into an actual movie, something we can produce. But like, that makes it really hard to say if there's a specific line you didn't like or a specific idea you didn't like. That's hard to say that that's on Christina Hodson, because maybe she wrote that line, or maybe the screen story guys were like, I got a really fun line for that, let's put this in here. We don't know. And they never talk about this in general. They extra never talk about it if a movie bombs. Like, we will not get behind the scenes things where everybody's taking credit for lines that are mocked on the internet constantly. By the way, my cat Mortimer is here. He just got on my lap. He needed to be here for this part of the video because of how much he loves the other two people that had screen story by credits on The Flash. And you know what? He's right to love them, because I also really enjoy movies they made. It's John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, which, if you're not familiar, they are the two people that wrote and directed Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, a movie that everybody liked. Like, a really, really fun, solid movie. And they had screenplay by credits on that movie, but they also directed it. And when that's the case, it's like hard to tell exactly who wrote what lines and, you know, how everybody contributed. But like, imagine this. Imagine that The Brave and the Bold, they just announced the writers for that movie, and it's actually John Francis Daley and Joshua Goldstein. I personally would be like, awesome. I love Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I pitched them potentially as people who should direct the new X-Men movie just because of how much I love that movie. And like, it's not just that, because they also wrote like the screenplay for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. It seems like they did a lot of work on the story for Spider-Man: Homecoming, a movie I liked. So if they were announced for this, my reaction would be awesome, even though their most recent credit is also The Flash. And hey, what's the difference? Is it just a full double standard? Like, when it's guys, it's different than when it's women? I can't say that for sure. I think some of it comes from the fact that like some people just really, like myself, really like that Dungeons & Dragons movie. Enough that like it proves they know how to do this, right? So like, if The Flash didn't work and they had a writing credit on The Flash, you wouldn't say that means they can't write a movie. You would say, well, they clearly can write a movie. Something about the Flash movie just didn't work. And maybe it was studio meddling. It was a very expensive movie. Probably went through some reshoots. Maybe there was even like ad-libbing and stuff like that, which isn't always bad. That's the thing. We'll never know. But like, just looking at the worst credit on their IMDb, I don't think tells you very much. And also, like, as excited as I would be for John Francis Daley and Joshua Goldstein, they got way worse stuff than Christina Hodson has. They have the Vacation remake. They have like the Burt Wonderstone movie, which I have gone back and watched and I don't hate. That's the thing. It's all about how you present it. If you say the people that wrote the remake of Vacation are going to be writing the new Batman movie, everybody would lose their mind. You could show a clip from Vacation. It's the worst thing. I'm sure it's somebody throwing up or something like that. And like, oh, Batman's going to be doing this. Bad. Or you could take a clip from Dungeons & Dragons and say, these guys are writing the Batman movie. And it's like the clip where Sophia Lillis transforms into a bunch of things and escapes the castle. And you'd be like, oh, this is incredible. Like, I can't wait to see this. It's all about how you present it. So like, I don't think there's much you can learn from just thinking about Christina Hodson as the writer of The Flash. Also, and this is probably going to be a more controversial take, I think a lot of the writing of The Flash is good. Like, I think the parts with Batman, both Batmans, are well written. I think what people were sharing today was the one joke where they're both tied to the lasso of truth. Batman and the mafia son, and then Barry eventually, and they start saying things like, I should give all my money away. That's how I'll really fix crime in Gotham. And like, Barry's like, I don't know how to have sex. Like, yeah, A, who cares? Like, it's not a very good joke, but then also B, like, that argument just isn't fun. That like, why doesn't Batman just give away all his money? It doesn't matter how much money the soup kitchens are going to get or how much money is going to go to fixing the potholes. Like, if the clown is poisoning the water supply, you need a Batman for it. That's just the truth. But also, like, we're supposed to have fun, right? We're trying to have fun. Can Batman in this universe just kind of have all decided the money is best spent on Batman so that we don't have to like feel bad or stupid watching it? Like, I think that joke used to be kind of funny, but now it's just like, who cares? And also, the Batman Part 2 feels like it's gonna do a lot of that. Like, Bella Real in the Batman 1 was like, oh, Bruce Wayne, you could really do a lot to help the city. So like, I don't know. I understand why that idea kind of touches a sore spot. The Barry sex line, it also isn't very good. They also did that bit in the Justice League movie where they had Aquaman touch the lasso and then say something kind of embarrassing. So like that, not a good joke. However, the actual like the core, like the meat of the Batman story, which both Batman, again, Ben Affleck, Batfleck, and then Michael Keaton, Keat Fleck, if we're calling him that. I think all the dialogue with them is really good. Like A, they both feel like Batman. B, they both feel like their specific versions of Batman. And C, like they both present really interesting ideas for Barry about like, you can't fix things, you have to move on, coming from Batfleck. But then eventually Keaton's like, maybe we can fix things. We should do like, there's just something there. Also, all the Keaton action is good. The effects on that movie are not all good. There's plenty of them that are quite mockable. Some of it's good, like some parts of that movie look fun, and also some of it's like stylish, you know. But like I think that's part of why some of the fight scenes maybe don't look amazing, but I think conceptually they're very fun. The Batman chase with Batfleck now on the motorcycle and then like grappling onto the truck and gliding, like I think that fight scene is one of the best Batman action sequences put to film. I think it's fun. It showcases him trying to protect people. It also showcases a lot of different gadgets and like ideas Batman has. It makes what Batman is doing both feel difficult, like he is straining, but also like he does feel kind of superhuman the way that he's able to glide and hide from people. Like I think even if that action scene doesn't always look amazing because of CGI, it's a good action scene. So if we're just looking at like Batman credentials alone, Christina Hodson can write two different versions of Batman in the same movie and they feel different, but they both feel like Batman. That feels like, to me, a pretty good audition for should this person write a Batman movie. But like I said, I don't think it's helpful to judge someone based on their worst IMDb credit. So let's look at another one of theirs that I think a lot of people have been saying not great things about, the Batgirl movie. Christina Hodson wrote the Batgirl movie, which we will never see. I would love to see it. If somebody has it, give it to me, but I don't think anybody does. We don't know why that movie did not work. It maybe didn't look good. Maybe the writing wasn't good. Maybe the acting wasn't good. We just don't know. And also, when the executives said, like, we're gonna cancel this movie and get a tax break, like, they could have made the wrong call, or they could have made that call for a reason that had nothing to do with the quality of the movie. Just kind of doing some research and going, this is how many people are like excited for Batgirl, because again, we're getting into superhero fatigue, that kind of timeline, and it's totally possible they just looked at the numbers and went, a lot of these movies are going to be in trouble, this one's going to have the hardest time making money, so let's just not bother with it. So again, I think for the purposes of this, not helpful. Although I do think like some of the ideas that we found out about Batgirl are interesting. The story behind that version of Firefly I think was clever. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was something like Garfield Lynn, the character played by Brendan Fraser in that movie, was a mob enforcer who like needed money, so he did like arsons or something. But like I think Firefly is a character that can just fly around and have a flamethrower, and this is like an interesting take on him potentially. But yeah, like we'll never know. So I don't think this helps us learn anything about whether Christina Hodson is going to do a good job on a Batman movie. But then there's two other credits I think do make a better case for it. First one, Birds of Prey. I know not everybody likes that movie, but I did this when I did my rewatching all the DCEU movies for one of my bigger videos about that, and like looking at what was good in them and what don't we appreciate enough. And I think I came to the conclusion in that Birds of Prey is like my second favorite one of these, behind The Suicide Squad. Like, I think Birds of Prey is just a really fun movie. There's parts of it that don't work. I think Cassandra Cain is super weird, but like besides that, I think all the characters are written well. I think the plot is fun. I think the pacing's a little strange because of how it kind of splits up the narrative. But like Christina Hodson, not necessarily the editor of this movie. That could be a choice they come up with later. And also, like, again, I like the movie, so like even though I don't think that's my favorite decision the movie makes, maybe without it, I just wouldn't like it as much. But like, I think because of the DCEU having just kind of a generally bad reputation, especially the stuff at the end of the DCEU having a bad, like we had the Aquaman, which Aquaman wasn't too bad either. Flash, which obviously we talked about has its problems. Blue Beetle, which I think is mostly good, and then Shazam 2, which is probably the worst one that came out that year. Like, people don't look back fondly at the post-COVID DCEU. But, like, I think if you just go back and watch that movie, and if you're fine with the idea of watching a movie led by Harley Quinn, which isn't for everybody, she's, for a lot of people, quite an annoying character that is frequently what the characters in her movie say to her, but for the same reason, like, there's plenty of shows where I find a character annoying and I'm supposed to find him annoying, but I find him so annoying that I can't enjoy the show. There's people like that for Harley Quinn, sure. But all I'm saying is, I think Birds of Prey is good. So, like, forget Flash, forget Batgirl. If the line was, Birds of Prey writer is working on Batman, the Brave and the Bold, I think I'd be pretty excited. I'd be like, that was a lot of fun. But then let's look at Christina Hodson's other credit. Because, hey, I don't think Birds of Prey is Christina Hodson's best credit either. Let's look at the last thing that I want to talk about, which is, without a doubt, the best written movie of all of these, and just like a movie that I think most people agree is unimpeachably very good, is Bumblebee. Christina Hodson is the sole writer credited with Bumblebee. None of this story by, screenplay by, screen story by credit. No, she's just the writer of Bumblebee. And besides Transformers 1, which is very fun, but like taking that out of the picture, looking at just the live action Transformers, Bumblebee is by a mile the best one. It is a movie that is incredibly charming, does a lot of really fun creative things with the Transformers, plays with like the sillier parts of the Transformers lore and like the Cybertron war in a way that the old Transformers movies really never did. It seems like because they were too scared of like going that big, but like Bumblebee did. Bumblebee was also very funny. Individual lines of Bumblebees were good. I still like, even though it's like a little stupid, I like the, hey, can we trust these guys? They are calling themselves the Decepticons. I love when Haley Steinfeld drives Bumblebee off the lot and like waves and she's very happy, and then the guy at the junkyard is like, she's gonna die in that thing. Like, that's very funny. But just like overall, that movie's great. If the story was Bumblebee writer is going to write Brave and the Bold, I think we would all go, great. But because people have decided, for whatever reason, to judge Christina Hodson by her worst credit, which is The Flash, not to say I don't know what the other things she did before this were, but like her least successful big Hollywood superhero movie, The Flash, because of that, you could pick apart a couple lines to share that on Twitter and be like, oh man, Warner Brothers is cooked. And forget about all that. Let's imagine this is a brand new person, right? A brand new screenwriter, which like for sure is a worse version of this, right? I want someone who has written a very good movie, which is Bumblebee. I don't care how many movies they've been a part of that have failed, because it is pretty much impossible to assign specific choices, like in the Flash's case, to specific people that worked on the movie. But you can say, hey, this part of Bumblebee I liked, that was her. But then beyond all that, if they just said this random person who you'd never heard of was writing this movie, this is a Batman movie, right? This is gonna be a huge movie. James Gunn is in charge of the new DC, along with Peter Safran. There is no way they just kind of went, let's see if they can do it. Like, you know what? I don't really know if they got this movie writing thing down, but like, let's throw them a Batman movie, see if they can't knock that out of the park. Like, I'm sure this was an extensive search. Also, James Gunn writes these movies sometimes, right? Like, he wrote Superman, he's writing Man of Tomorrow, he wrote Peacemaker, he wrote Creature Commandos, he wrote Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn knows how to do this. I trust, at a bare minimum. Not that everything James Gunn's DCU produces is going to be good. Clearly, I didn't love everything that happened at the end of this season of Peacemaker, but like, I trust that he's not just some executive who doesn't understand what makes a good Batman movie, who doesn't understand like what the fans want from a Batman movie, what kind of Batman would be fun to put in a movie with this Superman and put in this universe, and how that could be different or maybe very similar to the version Pattinson is playing in the Batman movies. Like, no producer has gotten that more than James Gunn and Peter Safran, without a doubt. Like, they read the comics, they know these characters inside and out. And again, I'm not saying every move they're gonna make is right, but like, for stuff like this, I don't know, can we not trust them? Give them the benefit of the doubt that like, they probably know what they're doing. Christina Hodson maybe pitched them an idea or something, and they were like, that's great, you gotta write that, because that's amazing. And then we'll see. Like, if the trailer comes out and the writing's all bad and it doesn't make any sense and like, the plot's stupid, then sure, maybe we can look back and say like, this Christina Hodson maybe wasn't the right pick for this. But right now, what we have is that the person who wrote the Bumblebee movie is also going to write the Batman Brave and the Bold movie. And that is good. That is a good thing. We should be worried about that. So like, listen, am I saying that this Batman movie is going to be good? Maybe. It might be good. We'll see. Am I saying it definitely gets made? I have no idea. It's a future movie, and this is Warner Brothers we're talking about. There's going to be all kinds of mergers, acquisitions, stuff like that. Things may change. But if all we got right now is Andy Muschietti, and you say what you will about Andy Muschietti, you know, say what you will about It Chapter 2 and the direction on The Flash, but like, if all we've got is the director of the It movie working on a script written by the writer of the Bumblebee movie, like, awesome. That's a good thing. we should be excited about that. And if you really hated Bumblebee, yeah, this just might not be for you. Luckily, there's a whole other Batman movie that they're gonna make the year before that might be more of what you're looking for. So like, that's the other thing. Like, this Batman just might not be for everybody, and like, that's okay because they're making lots of Batman movies. And like, I think, you know, one of the lessons we can learn there is nobody's perfect. You know, no writer, no production studio. Disney, for example, is not perfect. Like, sure, they've had a lot of hits, but they've also had a lot of flops, which reminds me of a video I watched recently called Let's Compare and Contrast Disney's Flop Eras. It's made by Lindsay, who's one of my favorite video essayists. In the video, Lindsay talks about the different flop eras of Disney. Because sure, there were lots of movies that they made that were just hits, but also they made a lot of movies that were great and we love that bombed, and also they made some movies that people don't love that also didn't do well. But like, I find it interesting to look back at like a big studio like that, get that kind of perspective. Also, it's funny. It's a funny video. All of Lindsay's videos are funny. You can watch that video right now on this video's sponsor, Nebula. You guys have heard me talk about Nebula before. It is a subscription streaming service that I helped to create. A bunch of us video essayists, and I don't like call myself a content creator, but like content creators got together and were like, hey, these platforms we have to work with, they're great, but they have some problems. And the big one is we wanted to just make great videos, give them to you guys. We wanted to make a nice, clean, well-organized place where you can go to watch all of our videos. They all go up early, so every Nando V Movies video and Nando Cut video go up early. They're all ad-free. You can download them to your phone, which is a feature I don't hear nearly enough people talking about, but it is incredibly useful. Like, if you don't want to have to eat up all your data or deal with the Wi-Fi at the gym or something, download some videos. You'll have them with you. Also, this is a thing that wasn't a concern when we started Nebula, but has become a concern when talking about the other platforms is, I don't know about you, but when I jump onto other platforms, I am flooded with AI. We were talking about it just now in regards to the Thor trailer. Like, it is everywhere, and it makes finding information, especially useful information, really, really difficult because you don't know if it is being made by a person, and if it's not being made by a person, A, you don't want to support it because AI is bad, but B, like, if you're trying to learn something or get some information, AI just makes stuff up. So like, I have gone to so many videos trying to learn things about comic book characters that I kind of know some stuff about, but don't know everything about. Like, oh, I want to get brought up to speed on like the full story of Cable or something like that. And just immediately you hear something, you're like, that's not true. Oh, this is AI. Okay. Yeah. Ignore that. The videos on Nebula are all made by real people. And that didn't used to have to be a selling point, but now I think it might be the best selling point. There's also all kinds of cool videos you can only find on Nebula. Like, Lindsay makes videos almost exclusively for Nebula. One of her most recent videos was about Bluey adults, and the one after that was about dash cam footage, so it really covers a pretty wide spectrum of things. Then you've got short films like Patrick Williams' Dinner Plan, or series like Maggie Mae Fish's Amy's Dead End Dream House. And you have what we haven't like fully announced, but will be coming out sometime next year, our show Subliminal. It's our first like dramatic series. I wrote an episode. I think it's pretty good. I've seen parts of it now because it's like coming together and been edited and all that, and like it looks great. I can't wait for you guys to see it. If you want to support us, give us more opportunities to do cool stuff like that, and you want to see our videos early, ad-free, download them and see other creators on Nebula, because all of your favorite creators and your next few favorite creators are on Nebula right now. Like, there's something for everybody. And a yearly subscription to Nebula is $60 for a whole year. That is $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, or the link in the description, or you use the QR code, you can get a year of Nebula for just $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an incredible deal. And if you want to check Nebula out on your own, sign up for a 3-day trial. I guarantee you will find something you like. Again, that is go.nebula.tv/thenandocut.